Well, folks, it is that time of the year where I'm updating my emergency preparedness bag. Now, in other videos, I've told you that, my emergency preparedness bag is seasonal. Like, I tend to carry a little bit extra stuff because I live in a fire zone. So, this time of the year, when fires are ramping up, I will update my bag to, reflect the likelihood of that sort of emergency. I have had to evacuate before. Fortunately, the fire line hasn't come that close, but it's been within a mile of my house, which is a little too close for comfort considering high winds. A mile is nothing when it comes to wildfires. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, I thought we were in wildfire season. Why are we in another wildfire season? And this is primarily for folks who maybe aren't in Southern California. But this time of the year, we have these Santa Ana winds and just winds pick up in general. So it's not that the likelihood of wildfires increases, it's the likelihood of their spread and the severity of the wildfires. I'm not a fire science expert, so if you are familiar with fire science or work in that field, feel free to leave a comment and try and differentiate or help me differentiate. But from my understanding, that's what it is. It's simply the fact that because of the high winds, a small, campfire that got out of hand could potentially become acres upon acres of wildfire because the wind just carries those embers. So usually this time of the year, even if you have a campfire permit, campfires are not allowed simply because something is insignificant for any other time of the year as a little ember that would normally just be put out by the time it lands anywhere, can now increase the likelihood of a wildfire. And where I live, there's lots of open land, and the electrical companies, and this is the primary reason for my preparedness, is not just the evacuation piece, but the electric companies will actually turn off our power, sometimes without notice. Some other times they will give us some notice, but basically, if the winds pick up and they think that their electrical equipment is in danger of like falling over or being damaged because of the winds, they shut them down to prevent, if there is any damage to the electrical equipment, it doesn't, there's not active electricity running through it and cause a wildfire. Anyway, long story short, this is another wildfire season for us where a fire that might start, 30 miles away from me could be right at my front door because of the winds. And then there's the electric companies turning off our power, which happened so much last year. So I did go out and buy an Anker Solex F3800. I will be posting a review on that. I bought one solar panel for it. I'm curious to see the charge time, how long I can run. I just have two major appliances that I would need to run off of this, which is my refrigerator and my deep freezer. So I'm curious to see like how long I can keep those things running, considering last year the longest we went out power was 3 whole days, which for me wasn't terrible. As long as I can run my fridge and deep freezer, like I'm good. I'm a bookworm. I'll read. And then in the years where we've had to evacuate, it was usually, not even a whole day. We were just asked to prepare to leave. And only once we were told, you probably might want to start making your way out. We're in this like yellow zone, I guess you could call it, which I did actually evacuate. So without further ado, let's get into my, I guess, winter 2025 emergency preparedness bag. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dr. Virgo podcast. Now, if you don't know who I am, I'll go ahead and briefly give you my, I guess, resume 101. If you're familiar with who I am, feel free to hit that little fast forward 10 option. This should only take me like 15 seconds. So, my name is Jessie. I have a master's and a doctorate in Homeland Security with primary focus in physical security and emergency management. I have worked in the, I guess, law enforcement adjacent space, which like physical security, security space, and executive protection for the last 16 years. I was in the military. I was a medic, and I served on a search and rescue team, and now I serve as chief of staff for the International Association of Search and Rescue Coordinators. I do own my own security company. All of that is to say that while I work primarily in the fields that deal with emergency response and national security and homeland security, I would consider bushcrafting and preparedness not just a hobby, but something that I think is a skill that every person should have, regardless of where you are in the world. You never know when shit's going to hit the fan. And this channel is pretty much dedicated to wellness, wisdom, and warfare, which center around preparedness, not just physically and not just as your, health and wellness, but also mentally to ensure that you are in a good place to be able to handle anything that's thrown at you, along with, expanding your cognitive capacity, if you will. That's that wisdom piece. So, okay, that is me. That is what this channel is about. I'm going to share my EDC bag. I apologize that I have to kind of cut between two different cameras. Um, Eventually, I'll have a podcast studio big enough where I can display all of these things to you while I'm talking. So, if you want to go ahead and hit subscribe, that would be great. Maybe eventually my channel will grow and I can pay to have a podcast studio. For now, podcasting is a side gig in my spare bedroom. Let's get into it. Normally I script these things, but today I'm winging it, so might go off on some tangents here. That's just who I am as a person. I'm trying to give you guys as much information as possible. So, starting off, this is a 511 patrolman bag. This is a bag that I used to use on patrol. I was a volunteer for the sheriff's department out here, and it works really well if you don't have anybody in the passenger seat. It's designed to be affixed to your passenger seat, which, if you have a partner, probably not going to work. Like, I now have a partner, so doesn't work. But my one dog King passed away last year, which was unfortunate. However, I've had to make a lot of modifications to my EDC. Now I'm just preparing for one dog and not two. And with that, I no longer just have to use a backpack. I was always prepared to have to carry my dogs out or handle both of them, so I needed both hands free. In this case, this I can just throw on the side. I have my one boy now, so I can manage him pretty well with the bag that goes on the side. And it just annoys me when I have something going across me, like hanging out on the side. When I need both arms to do stuff, I feel like it limits my range of motion, which is why I usually I would use like a 511 bag or some sort of like backpack. I think I used a JanSport backpack last year because I don't want to be tactical all the time. Although those backpacks have a ton of features that are useful, like the Molly system, but sometimes I don't want to stand out as someone who might have a backpack full of really good shit that people might need in an emergency situation. So, um, although this is 511, so it probably screams that as well. Anyway, so instead of like throwing this bag in my closet like all of the other bags, I thought I'd use it as this winter's emergency preparedness bag. We'll see how it goes. I do run drills, so we'll see how good this is and how it works for me in my system. I'm 5'3". This bag is like half my size, so we'll see. On top of this bag, I have a wool blanket. If you ever served in the Navy, they give you wool blankets to go on like foot of your bed, and they tell you that they're flame retardant. There is some truth to that. Again, not a fire science expert. This is a fire blanket. I bought this as a fire blanket. It is yellow, high vis. Did that on purpose. If I'm evacuating from my house, there is a high probability that I want emergency responders to see me so they can either guide me to a safe place or guide me to an exit out of the fire zone. So that is what is on top. And I'll be honest with you, this blanket's really for my dog. Sure, it could be for me or it could be to help clear a path. I do have fire extinguishers in my house if I needed to, like, clear a path to get out. But that honestly is predominantly so, and I keep it on top so I can grab it quickly, throw it over my dog, scoop him up, all 85 pounds of him, and then be out the door. So, yeah. Okay, so when you open this thing up and you flip the top up, that's the piece that would normally be like clipped on to your like the headrest stakes on the passenger seat, and you can have all your stuff next to you. Inside of those pockets, I have nothing useful. I have some Kleenex tissues because my allergies suck, and a couple of charging cables. Now, immediately to the back of this bag, I have my important papers. I have my all like real important stuff in a fire retardant envelope, which you can't see, but it is in the bag. And then I have a couple of like hanging file folders that used to be in my desk, but I tend to throw them in my bag. And that's just like my dog's medical records and a couple of important papers. This bag's not fire retardant, so these aren't like the most important because if they were, they would be in the fire retardant envelope. But it's just basic documentation that's nice to have, but I could easily get another copy of or that I have on the cloud or something. And then in that fire retardant envelope is going to be all of my important papers, passports, things like that, along with a spare set of keys for my deck draw system in my car and a spare car key, along with a spare house key and a couple other larger non paper items, if you will, that I don't want to become molten lava if God forbid something happens to my house. Okay, next I have these ReadyWise meals. A while back, I bought a ton of these like ReadyWise buckets, and every now and then I'll cook one just to get used to it. Like that, they're 4 servings. They are dense, so when you cook them, just know that you have like 4 days worth of food or a day and a half worth of food if we're doing math. So I only carry a couple of these, and I'll carry like powdered milk and maybe like a something sweet. Like they have a pudding and they have some dried fruit. These do have a shelf life, and not that I want to constantly eat these all the time because at the end of the day they are very processed. Obviously, if you're in a pinch or like in an emergency situation, like nobody cares how processed it is, but if I don't have to eat them, I won't. Next, I have the Soul Escape Light Bivy. Uh, this is okay. It has a purpose. The purpose is if you are in a situation where you're concerned about your core body temp dropping, right? Hypothermia type situations, or just colds, like you're in the cold and you don't want to reach hypothermic temperatures or body temps. This is great. It's like orange on one side, reflective on the other. But I'm gonna tell you right now, this thing sucks. Like,
in the galaxy of this sucks camel dicks!
it served a purpose, and its purpose was to help you like once or in a single situation. It's not meant to be reused. I had bought 2 of these, and again, I always like to practice with my gear. And I used one thinking that I could just like fold it back up and shove it back in this thing. Hell no, that thing tore. It is essentially Reynolds wrap. But when I tell you it kept me warm, it kept me warm. Now, I wasn't in I wasn't like below zero. So I don't really know how it would perform in those temperatures. I have an alternative solution to that, but just know that this is a single use item. I had already bought 2. I went to like an REI and they were on sale, so I bought a couple because I thought it'd be nice to have. I do have a bivy and like a whole emergency camping setup and like a ranger roll, for example. I wasn't in the army, but I think the concept of a ranger roll is ingenious. So kind of have that already, and this is like a backup to that. Like I pray to God that I never have to use this thing. Just it's not that it's a quality assurance problem or a quality control problem. That's what it was designed to do, to be a cheap solution in a really shitty situation. But again, um, not my favorite piece of gear. Eventually I'll find another solution. Next, we have this, like, I bought this on Amazon. It's actually pretty legit. I've had it for like 4 or 5 years now. It is a hand cranked radio flashlight that's also solar powered. I generally keep rechargeable AA and AAA batteries on me, and I'll leave a link to that in the description because I always have like power packs. I have a Anchor C1000, the camping like power pack as well on top of the F3800. So I feel like I'm pretty good on that aspect. 'Cause I have like 400-watt solar panels that can charge those things. But I just thought this was cool. Anytime you can find emergency preparedness gear that serves multiple purposes to keep your stuff compact and your bag light, so you're not trying to like escape a shitty situation with like 40 pounds on your back. So, and 40 pounds isn't even that bad, but you know what I mean. So this isn't that bad. Crank it up. Flashlight works if you hit that button. It has a radio. I primarily wanted this for the radio because I'm learning the ham operating side of things. I have the study books. I will eventually get my license and get a better radio set. But you never know what's going to be broadcast on regular like AM FM. So I like to have that. But again, I am looking at a more robust, more reliable solution. So TBD on that.
I'm working on it.
Okay, next I have my medical bag. I will say this is my medical kit, like that I keep in my house that I'm in and out of all of the time. So let's go through what's in here. So, I have these Leatherman shears. These were a gift. I had them they were laser engraved. When I say they were a gift, I think I bought these for myself actually. Anyway, um, next I have some naloxone. This used to be issued. This was issued to me by the sheriff's department, but now you just can get it over the counter. I do think it's important to have one of these. I know that there are some varying opinions on this, but I think me as a first responder, I'm used to having this, so I always keep some, even in my personal bag. Then we have a blood pressure cuff. If you know how to use it, it's not a bad thing to have on you. They're not super expensive. Then I have a thermometer. This actually I bought for my dog. Ear temps are not the most reliable temperatures, especially when looking at core body heat, but it is a good indication of elevated temperature. So, for example, I bought this for my dog because it has the little like protective casing on it. And if his ear temp is slightly high, then I know, okay, I need to probably take like a rectal and confirm his temperature. With a person, you can do the same thing. Ear temps, not bad. Forehead temps, not bad, but if it does appear to be slightly elevated or low, then you might want to try the, silver bullet type situation or under the tongue if the person's conscious. There's a variety of ways you can take a temperature. This is just one of the things that I have on me. I do also keep another blood pressure cuff. I originally just had the wrist blood pressure cuff, which is like an automatic one, electronic one.
Be sure and use small words, dear.
The gold standard, if you will, is going to be the upper arm. So that's why I also like to keep the blood pressure cuff. Also, because that thing's battery. Like, I think that thing takes a battery. So, like, if it dies or if the temperature is really cold and it's not in the electronic one is not working, I want to have like the manual system on me. Then I have a little like hygiene kit. I cannot stress how important it is to maintain some level of hygiene in the backcountry in an emergency situation. This is going to reduce your likelihood for infection, communicable diseases. It's just important. Like, you don't have to go full blown like washing your ass in the backcountry with like, Tresemme.
Please wash your ass.
But it is good to just once over, rinse or something, right? Just throwing that out there. Washing your hands after you use the bathroom. After you prepare food, especially if you're dealing with raw meat, and not, parasites and things like that. I think that I don't have to explain too much about why you need to wash your hands, but just throwing that out there. I also have a toothbrush and toothpaste because dental hygiene is also extremely important. The link, or I wouldn't even say correlation, I would say the direct link between dental hygiene and like cardiovascular health, for example. I'm still learning a little bit about that. It is mind blowing. Do yourself a favor and look up how dental hygiene correlates to other system health, and overall health. So I don't know why I'm justifying this stuff to you guys, but sometimes you guys leave comments like you don't need that, and it's like, if anything were to happen, I hope I'm not in the backcountry with you because you gotta wash your hands, bro.
Thank you all for coming to my TED Talk.
Okay, next up we have some 550 paracord. This is like actual paracord with the nylon strings inside of it. And the cord, depending on what type of cord you get, will determine how many cords there are. I'm not like a cord expert. I do have some bank line also floating around, but I just carry a bunch of it. It's high vis. I also have a tarp in my car and some more paracord. But my thought process with this is if I'm not actually using the sole bivy as something to wrap around me, because in my experience that didn't last very long, I would at least like to use it to build like a quick A-frame, like shelter. And that's like assuming worst case scenario. Like I have to evacuate from my house and I have nowhere to go and I'm at like a campsite last minute, um, or whatever. So I don't know if you've ever seen the evacuation points that like FEMA sets up or the state sets up for people that have been displaced by the wildfires or any other natural disaster. They're not very comfortable. They're meant to provide basic services, but like, do you want to be in a gymnasium with hundreds of other people potentially? To me, that's not an ideal situation. I would obviously check in, let people know that I'm okay. This way they're not thinking they have to do a body recovery at my address. And like I'll go and like let them know. Maybe I'll pick up, if they have like water or anything like that that I don't have. yeah, not the worst, but I probably wouldn't stay there, especially with my dog. They tend to not have accommodations for people with pets. Moving on, I have a tick remover. Next, I have a pulse oximeter, just little finger reading. This one's not like medical grade. It's pretty good, but you know, and then I have a pen light. Again, these are like tools to take vitals. I have some hand warmers, pretty obvious why you would need those. I always keep a notebook on me. I try to keep like a field notes or a write in the rain because this is the situation that I've been in. I've been on both sides of this, either as the person who's helping people evacuate or me trying to get out of the yellow zone into somewhere safe, away from the wildfire. And sometimes the first responders will give you directions. They don't have time to post signs. Usually there's cars set up, patrol cars set up so people can direct you. But 99% of the time, if you're evacuating and there's a first responder there, they're going to tell you where to go, right? They're going to tell you where, you know, they might have you evacuate, but not tell you where the nearest shelter is or where people are. I don't want to say mustering, but um, where the like shelters are for people that have been displaced. So sometimes they'll say, "Hey, it's over here," but in the heat of the moment, your mind's probably going in a million different directions. It's great just to write shit down. So for me, I keep a notebook in here to either write down vitals if I'm taking vitals on multiple people, if I'm, you know, providing aid in some way, and two, to write down directions. If a first responder, firefighter, whoever is telling me like, "Hey, go here," it's go up 2 blocks, make a left, you'll see it right there. Even though those directions are pretty simple, if I have the ability to write it down, I'm going to write it down. And this is just the notebook I keep on me. Next, I have a SAM splint. This is for splinting, obviously. If you buy like the multi pack, it comes with a bunch of different sizes. I try to keep the largest ones on me because you can fold them and make them smaller, whereas you can't make a smaller one bigger. Then I have my stethoscope. We all know what that does. In the outside pocket, I keep like a shitty little flashlight. This is not the main flashlight. I have a night core that's always on my persons, but I keep one in here just in case it is rechargeable. And then I also have the Leatherman Surge. I started carrying the Leatherman Arc on me. I found that it's easier for single hand use, whereas the Surge tends to be a bit stiffer. And maybe I just don't use it enough for it to loosen up a little bit, but that Arc came broken in right out the box. So that's the one I keep on me. And I actually end up using these things all the time, especially for little shit around the house when I don't want to go out to the garage and get like a tool, because that's where I keep my tools. And then I also keep shampoo and conditioner. This is obviously not something that I would use in the backcountry because these are not like safe for the backcountry and for the environment. So if I was going to go like shower in a creek, I would not use these. I would use the wilderness wash. But if I ended up at like a established campground, temporarily, or somewhere with amenities where I could take a shower, that's essentially why I bring that. And these are like the free ones you get from hotels. I always keep those because I always throw them in my emergency bags. Or if I'm going camping in like an RV, I'll bring those as well. One more thing I wanted to go over, and I'm going to go through this really quickly because I am in no way a CBRN specialist, but I did pick up a Mira CM8. Now, Mira is like, I would probably say, the second highest level of gas masks you can get. There is a company that has all of the fancy certifications that I would probably say is creme de la creme. I might eventually purchase one of those. For now, because my main concern is getting through smoke and the chemicals that are burning outside. I didn't need anything that would potentially protect me from a chemical, biological, radiological, or nuclear attack, which is what CBRN means. But, I think it is something that we should be prepared for. I mean, we haven't experienced those sorts of attacks in years, and the military still trains on it. So I think, it's something that we should have. I wouldn't call it a nice to have. I would definitely say it is a higher level of preparedness. I bought the CM8. So it comes in just the regular box. The one thing that wasn't in here, which is supposed to be in here, is the canteen. I did end up reaching out to Mira and they did send it to me. But be careful when you purchase these things, read what's included. So, what was included in this mask, with this mask, was the mask, the hydration tube, and the canteen. Overall, I liked it a lot. I liked the mesh back. I tried it with my hair in a ponytail and with my hair down to see if I could get a seal, and I could. And obviously, I went through this in the military. There's tons of risks if we're in some sort of CBR environment that your hair could capture, you know, the chemicals. Same thing with beards. Now, the theory was that if you had a beard, you couldn't get a proper seal. And the results are somewhat mixed. Everything that I've read from, national institutions is that a beard can prevent a proper seal. But the other piece of that is that the hair can actually capture or trap some of the harmful chemicals that are in the atmosphere. Uh, I don't have a beard. I have hair, sure. It's a risk. I'm not going to quickly shave my head before I evacuate. It's just something that I'm going to have to deal with. So, with this mask, I bought a bunch of different filters to include that smoke filter, and I'll leave all of the filters that I purchased in the video description, and along with like what their purpose is. Again, not a CBR expert. I really just wanted something that would give me at least 30 minutes to evacuate. I think they make masks for dogs now. Just throwing that out there. I thought that would be pretty interesting. I don't think my 9, almost 10-year-old dog is going to let me put a mask on him, but um, just something else. The other thing I bought was what they call a spectacle kit. Obviously, I wear glasses, and when I put this mask on, I still wanted the ability to see. Like, I have pretty good vision even without them on. I mean, technically, I'm not even really supposed to be wearing them all the time. They're for nighttime because my astigmatism is popping at night. But I wanted the spectacle kit just in case. So what I did, and I'm going to play this very quickly, is I followed the Mira instructional video to install the spectacle kit into the mask. Phenomenal. Took 2 seconds. Well, I went kind of slow because I was doing it step by step. But you basically just pop these glasses in between the rubber gasket that goes around the view, around the clear piece.
Brain is working so hard right now. Oh.
Essentially, there is a space in between the clear plastic and the mask that meets your forehead, and the spectacle kit just pops in there. And then all you have to do is kind of adjust it to make sure it's where it needs to be. So that's what I did. I popped them on, and it was great. I walked around just to see. I was still able to get a seal. There was no like violation of the integrity of the mask by popping the spectacle kit in. And yeah, that was it. So thank you so much for watching. I know this was a longer video. I added a few things to my emergency preparedness bag, and then I had the mask, which is a new addition, along with the canteen. In my next video, I'm going to be going over a couple of the kind of like the medical side of things. So the medical kit that I keep in my car, along with a couple of North American Rescue pre-made kits. And I said in my other video, do not buy a pre-made kit. But North American Rescue has been putting together a trauma IFAC and then this rugged outdoor kit that I wanted to check out. Not just because everything it contained was great, but what was the quality of those things. So be on the lookout for that. And like always, I'll see you on the flip side.